Sactown Sports.
Can you believe it? The Giants fell to the White Sox today, 6-2.
Unbelievable.
Can you believe this? Drapes is not buying it. From a report out of Cincinnati, Jamar Chase reportedly looking for a 4-year deal from the Bengals worth $160 million. You're not buying that, huh?
I don't know, man. Like, he got to be out of his mind.
Only $120 million guaranteed.
Only 100. So $30 million per year guaranteed, basically. There's no way. I mean, think about this. You got starting quarterbacks. A couple years ago, Daniel Jones got a $40 million per deal, and people thought that was crazy. Now Jamar Chase, a wide receiver, can get 40? Come on, man. I'm not buying. The market, hey, it didn't go from 26 million to 40 million in one offseason, in one summer.
Let's see what our next guest thinks. Fantasy football expert, Fox Sports radio host Michael Harmon. Michael, thank you so much for your time today. What do you make of the report out of Cincinnati that Jamar Chase is looking at, well, he wants 4 years, $160 million. You think he's going to get it?
Why not ask for the moon?
There you go.
And think about where you settle, right? I mean, yeah, that might be high based on where the market is, but you've already got a handful of guys that have hit the $30 million mark. And if you think you're better and you've got leverage, take your shot, right? Because I think in Cincinnati, the realization of that window that you thought you had, because I was out here for that Super Bowl and people leaving the stadium like, we'll be back, no problem, blah, blah, blah. What's going on? That's not the way this works. And I think for Jamar Chase, he's kind of leaning on the organization to say, you know how quickly you can go back to what you were, right? You had a good run with Marvin Lewis and Carson Palmer and those guys, but you never won. You're winning with me. So I'm at least steady. So I don't blame him. Will he get it? We'll see if they blink. Cincinnati's usually not one to write big checks.
Right.
Our guy, Michael Harmon, joining us here on the Drive Guys, Sactown Sports, 1140. Mike, I'm just looking at your Twitter timeline. I still refuse to call it X. And one of the things you tweeted about is Sunday Ticket, available in the Apple App Store, $679.90, $680. We were doing some of the math. It may cost up to $1,400 for fans to see every NFL game. And there's a lot of outrage about that. Do you think it's fake outrage, though? Because I'm looking at one of your tweets, like fans are getting sticker shock over this and faked outrage. What's your take on it?
Well, that one was in response because you got the Sunday Ticket, right, which is YouTube TV. And so this is offered independently. But if you buy YouTube TV, you're paying nearly $400 for the service, right, for Sunday Ticket, and it costs you $73 a month for YouTube TV. So do the math. You're back at $700 plus.
Wow.
So in the end, do you want to watch a bunch of reality shows like The Challenge and Housewives or whatever the hell it's called, Desperate Housewives, Re-Upped, more fiction? I mean, that's all it is. You want that service in addition to your Sunday Ticket, or do you just want to go through Apple? I mean, that's just it. It's just a different delivery device. I get it. Once upon a time, we were content with 3 games a week.
Yep.
So, I mean, I think that's the other reality of this. It's kind of like when newspaper sites and other folks tried to charge for content. It's like, wait, you were giving it to me for free. I'm like, we still have to pay people. Yeah. And the ad market's not what it once was. Like, once upon a time, people didn't have a problem paying for a newspaper or paying for those things. And then we got used to the idea that it was free. Guess what? There's no free lunch in life. And eventually the bill comes due. Right now, the NFL saying, well, we're king. And if you got the fever, whether you're a gambler, a fantasy player, or you're just a psychotic fan that wants to avoid your family in 4 big distinct windows each week, that, we've got the service for you. But that first taste might be free, but eventually we're getting your soul.
I'm just wondering if Jamar Chase gets his contract, how many NFL season tickets he'd be able to buy. But that we'll figure that out later. Michael Harmon, nice stuff to join us. Michael, you being a fantasy football expert, we've been talking a lot about wide receivers around here, and we're still waiting for something to happen before we go any further with a certain 49er receiver. But my question is, who do I need to be targeting at the stacked wideout position in my fantasy draft?
Go a little bit later. I've got a candle lit for Brandon Ayuk, as well, because you got only one more year with the guy making $900,000, who's the most important guy on your squad. But that being said, I also kept saying they should do the bait and switch. You come for Ayuk, you leave with Debo.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm looking at Khalil Shakir in Buffalo, the experienced guy. The efficiency rate with Josh Allen was off the charts last year. And while everybody's excited about Keon Coleman and he'll be a big time player, I think with Shakir you're getting fifth wide receiver value in your fantasy leagues, but he's going to end up as a back end too before it's all said and done. Brian Thomas down in Jacksonville. Christian Kirk will not last a full season. Ridley's gone. They drafted him in the first round. I'm looking for a bounce back from Trevor Lawrence. Remember, he played through injury, so that's part of that slide. Not to say they didn't mismanage that roster all down the line, but look for better things there. So there's a second guy. Give me Xavier Worthy. I know we've seen a little of him in the preseason. He might be the guy to actually break the streak since Tyreek Hill to become that consistent wide receiver. You can also go Rashee Rice. Looks like he may avoid any kind of suspension in all of this, which is amazing. And he had himself one hell of a rookie season as well. So there's another guy. You go a little bit deeper, you can get into some of your Jalen Polk if you want to go to the New England side of things. Or today, Bo Nix named the number one guy in Denver. Courtland Sutton is still being drafted as a wide receiver 4 because nobody trusts the offense. Funny how you go from being a super genius with Drew Brees to a guy nobody trusts the offense is going to run in Denver. Funny how that works, isn't it?
Very odd. Must have something to do with the altitude. I don't know.
I don't know, something like that.
Mike Harmon joining us of Fox Sports Radio. Hey, Mike, I'm in a couple of fantasy leagues, and you tell me how I should approach this, okay? I'm in this one fantasy league. It's with a bunch of teenagers. So hear me out. Hear me out. Hear me out. And I'm doing them a favor. I'm like, all right, I'll join your stupid league. I'll play in it. But they did the draft order, and the guy who's running the league gets the number 1 overall pick.
Whoa.
Like, that's like their rule. If you run the league, you get the pick number. Have you ever heard of something like that before?
I mean, I've seen guys do it, and then they claim it's the luck of the draw. This is where, the league's got to be on a Zoom, in a room, whatever the case is. Because they do it for baseball card breaking stuff, right?
Yeah.
Or you open football cards, and you'll pull up the website, and it'll do the randomizer. That's what you need to do for the draft. And you need to be transparent about it. Because otherwise, if I'm the commissioner, I ain't feeling good about myself because eventually my league mates are going to track me down.
I'm with you. I'm thinking about dropping out of the league, Mike.
But Draper, are they just saying it's their rule? It's like
yes,
yes,
since I'm the commissioner, I get the number 1 pick. And I'm like, no, that's not how it works.
Yeah, see that. So if that was in the settings, because this is what, like, once upon a time, I ran the support and the back end of all the stuff at Yahoo when we first started the website and everything. Is folks wouldn't read their rules, and you'd have to go explain how their scoring worked or roster things work. Sometimes the commissioner had the ability to go in and change them, and you had to be very clear. Hey, man, you do that funny business. We need disclosure, and eventually it became an automatic feature of you would get notified that he made a change. Generally, you did, but nobody would check their email. So this is one of those, man. Buyer beware if you're going in with people you don't know, especially if there's going to be any kind of money, prizes, or shame on the line if you lose.
Yeah. Michael Harmon with us, Fox Sports Radio. Is there anybody, Michael, that you think a lot of people, there's a consensus that we should be high on a certain player or players, but in your view, it's someone that we should probably avoid? Anybody fit that description for you? Yeah,
I mean, based on everything going on in Philly, I love the personnel, but with Jalen Hurts, he's been drafted as the number 2 QB, and I'm scratching my head a little bit. We'll see if that, they got past those woes of a year ago. Mahomes is interesting because he's 3rd at the QB position. Not necessarily a fantasy monster every year. Even if he wins, like, you don't get extra points for playoff wins. So that's it. And Anthony Richardson is 5th, just to do the QB position. He's 5th. Is he making it through 17 games? I don't think so. Unless he learned to slide. If he was doing the slip and slide thing like Caleb Williams and those guys, that was the most interesting thing in 3 weeks of Hard Knocks. And that really saddens me as a Bears fan. Anyway, beyond that, and they have a museum of ice cream, evidently, in Chicago that's to go to die for there. At the running back position, Achane being drafted 10th, big explosive play. Raheem Mostert didn't go anywhere. We did an interview with him last week, and then you can find the podcast, that one. Funny as hell. But a guy with 18 touchdowns a year ago, he doesn't suddenly disappear at the goal line, right? So he's a guy that I think a little bit scary. And then Bijan Robinson is all of a sudden third.
Yeah.
Again, expecting the Atlanta offense to click. I know Arthur Smith grossly mismanaged him a year ago, but I don't think he goes from being a guy that's seldom used to where for 17 games he's giving you 20 touches plus.
That's good advice.
All right.
What did he say about Jalen Hurts there, Drapes? You the big Eagle
No,
fan?
I tuned him out because I knew where he was going.
Watching you, and you just kept looking down. No reaction.
Because I knew which direction he was going, but he didn't say anything about my boy Saquon Barkley, who's a top 10 pick in fantasy football leagues, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's probably still back end first round. Well, but here's the thing, though, right? It goes back to league settings. Like in a PPR league, is he going to catch a lot of balls out of the backfield? He'll have his share. The other thing is, at this point in his career, are you trusting that he's going to be a 250 touch, 300 touch back? The answer is I don't know. If this offense runs as well as it should on paper, Jalen Hurts has got it on his arm a bunch too, right? And so, like, that's the thing, trying to figure out the balance with a guy like that. But when we talk about draft position, again, the league rules are so much. You also get guys that add in the IDPs, right? So all of a sudden you're drafting linebackers, and depending on the settings, those linebackers might be the top 10 players in your league. I was in a league once that did that, and the guy overvalued tackles. Well, tackles are official stat. Look it up. So the home cook is certainly there. But all of a sudden, you got guys that are scoring 40 points a game because they're in on 10 tackles and have 1 sack, and they're outscoring quarterbacks. So you got to be careful on late, or you get points for return yards that come in or whatever. Make sure you're looking at your league rules, man. A lot of chicanery, a lot of ways to hang yourself in the league, man.
Great advice from Michael Harmon. Thank you, Michael. We appreciate it. We hope to talk to you again soon. Thanks very much.
We'll talk to you soon. Happy drafting, and Jay's got my number, so. If you need me to talk you off the ledge, let me know.
Awesome.
All right,
thanks. Yeah, when we come back, a look at 8 free agents the Kings could sign, and we'll get back to the phones as well. Sactown Sports.
I didn't ask.